I, Nicole Albright, swear that I will be faithful.
I, Kathy Bork, swear that I will be faithful.
I, Calvin D'Entremont, swear that I will faithfully.
I, Guy Surratt, swear that I will be faithful.
I, Danny Muse, solemnly affirm that I will be faithful.
I, Kit Sonia, swear that I will be faithful.
I, Richard Donaldson, swear that I will be faithful.
I, Glenn Digdon, swear that I will be faithful.
I, Gordon Boudreau, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law.
And that I am duly qualified as required by law
for the office of Councillor of the Municipality of Argyll.
And that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially execute the duties
of the office to which I have been elected,
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
And that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward
or promise thereof for the exercise of any partiality
or other undue execution of the duties of my office.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. It is November 10th, a special council meeting. This is our first council meeting as new council. Before we get into the agenda, I'd like to take a moment, like for all of us, to take a moment of silence in remembrance for our veterans on this, the eve of Remembrance Day. Thank you. So I've called the meeting to order. Number 2 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I would like an approval. I would like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The first on our docket before we get into the election of Warden and Deputy Warden, we wanted to provide the opportunity for all of the 9 councillors to take a moment and speak on their priorities or things that are important for them in the next 4 years. And so without further ado, we will start with District 1. We'll start with Danny Muse, Councillor Danny Muse. I don't say that very often, but Councillor Danny Muse, you may begin with your priorities.
Okay, thank you very much. The first thing I want to do, I guess, is say thank you to the residents of my district for giving me the opportunity to represent them again for another 4 years. I've enjoyed the last 8, and I'm looking forward to the next 4. As far as priorities, I think that what I would like to see is more economic growth in the municipality. We've had a rough year for sure, and it would be nice to see more small businesses that would establish themselves. I think we have lots of opportunities in this municipality. Especially now that we've had the announcement for the internet that's going to be improved drastically, something that we've been fighting for now for since I've been here. And I think that this is definitely essential for any businesses nowadays, and maybe that will encourage more people if they know that there's internet, better internet than what we had in most of the areas. Another thing that I think as well is affordable housing or alternative housing. We're losing some of our residents for sure, and that is another thing that we've had on our priority list for a number of years, and hopefully we'll start seeing these happening now. We know that there are some that are already going in parts of the municipality, but I think we need more. Another thing too is, and this may not be in our municipality, but it's definitely a service in our municipality. We've lost the Y, and we've lost a public pool, and I think that we have to really work hard to get that going again. We need that. It's not just recreation, it's also for therapeutic. It serves more than just recreation, and I think that we can't do too long without one. So with that, I'll just say I'm looking forward. We have some new councillors on our team, and I'm just looking forward to getting back to business, to regular business. So just want to welcome them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muse. Councillor Ted Sonia.
Hi, I also want to thank the people of District 2 for supporting me. I went from house to house and seen a lot of nice people, made a lot of good friends. And as far as issues, overwhelmingly, like Danny's mentioned, the internet on the Comoes Hill side, Comoes Hill and Little River and Melbourne, it's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming issue for everybody, and it should be addressed. And I'm glad that the federal government is starting to step in. On my side, which I call my side, it's like the Plymouth and Westport area. Plymouth's been wanting sidewalks for 25 years or better, and it's an issue that I will address and try to push for in the future. The rest is all mundane, street lights and stuff like that. When it comes to Argyle, I like Danny, I believe in not just maintaining the status quo. I believe in making things better at the end of 4 years than when we first begun. My main reason for becoming or putting my name down was my frustration with infrastructure, and Danny touched on it too. And I think that I'm a big supporter, to start with, of infrastructure, of sports, anything that makes Yarmouth grow. Not only will everything that Danny said is correct, but I'll add one more thing. Infrastructure attracts people. It will attract entrepreneurs. It will attract businesses. Without it, my saying is we can't afford not to have it. It's a huge issue, and if we want doctors and we want businesses, we need infrastructure for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gordon-Boudreau.
Hi, first of all, like the rest, I want to thank all the constituents of District 3 for their support. Most of my issues that the residents have mentioned to me is pretty much a lot of safety issues. We've got the Jacquard Road that's heavily trafficked area. There's a fish plant, there's a lobster pound, there's the wharf. The road is not wide enough for all the traffic, and that's a safety issue because we've got a lot of pedestrians walking that route too. Secondly, civic signs, civic signage for the fire department that come on call for emergencies. The civic signs aren't well posted. Once in a while they'll go by. Thirdly, for safety issues, we've got intersections that we can't see the oncoming traffic, so we've got to take the brush down. And also what was mentioned a lot in my campaigning was community well, but as far as I know, it's in the works, as far as I know. Is that correct? Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Surratt. Guy. Councillor Surratt.
First of all, I'd like to thank the residents of District 4, like everybody else has done, for having the confidence to put me back here for another 4 years. I thank you very much. There are many items on my bucket list that for this term that I hope we can achieve as a council. In the municipality of Argyll, the lobster fishing industry is an economic driver, and it has met its challenges in the past 5 months, as we all know. It is my hope that the federal and provincial government, along with the commercial fishers, Indigenous fishers, can come to a reasonable conclusion to resolve what has been a black eye for this end of the province. And I believe there's a reason for a season. With COVID-19, we have seen many residents and businesses in despair, great despair, about what the prospect is for the next year or so. How will they manage? How will they pay the bills? The Atlantic bubble certainly seems to have worked so far. We have to be very vigilant and do our best to keep the spread to a minimum. Masks, sanitizers, etc. seem to be the new norm. Let's do our part as we await a vaccine for those who wish to take it. In the past 6 years, the municipality of Argyll has had about 3 droughts, as Councillor Boudreau just mentioned, about the wells. And it has impacted many residents in our municipality. This year has to be the most tanks I've ever seen in the back of half-tons. We are committed the municipality is committed to provide loans for those who want to dig or drill wells. We have close to $500,000 invested in this program so far, and I am committed, with the help of my colleagues, to see that the municipality of Argyll has infrastructure in key areas of the municipality, so residents don't have to drive all over the place to get water. Hopefully, this will be accomplished in the coming year. Some projects that I see, I'll say in my district first, we're planning to put some signs in each of the 4 villages that I represent. There'll be signs like they have in West Pubnico, and there's one when you come off the ramp in Tuscany here, something like that. We've put one in Sred's Island. We're looking, Eben River has one too. Danny, when I looked at you, I just thought of it. That's where our ideas. And it'll be the same color coordinated, I hope, anyhow. One more item on my district is to raise the road on the marshes to the Diddle Road. It floods once a month there, and I've had calls from the telephone company, Nova Scotia Power, believe it or not, that are stuck on the other side because they never figured on high tide when they were working. So that's an issue. Also, as it's been mentioned, the aquatic center, the Mariner Center is a big thing for recreation, for therapeutic, like Danny mentioned. That's a big item too. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the opening of the administration building, which is a highlight we've been working on for a long time. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Surratt. Councillor Nicole Albright.
So I feel like we have a lot of work to do over the next 4 years, and for that reason I'm very thankful that the residents of District 5 chose me to represent them again for the following 4 years. When I think about priorities, I tried to break it down into 3 categories, and the first category for me is in my district. So we've talked around the table a lot about the Eelbrook Fire Hall. For me, that's one of the most important projects for my own district. They need a fire hall. They needed a fire hall a long time ago. We know that, and I will work closely with the department to make sure that that happens as soon as we can. They're in the process of attaining a new truck that won't fit in the fire hall that they have right now. So not only that, the walls are ready to come down. So it's something that they absolutely need, and I will continue to work with them to make sure that happens. We also have a business park on the sea. For those new councillors who aren't aware, there's aquaculture that happens quite a bit in the municipality of Argyll, and in my district there is actually an oyster farm and related aquaculture that happens. So I will continue to work and support Charlene LeBlanc, who has done an amazing amount of work to make that happen. And it's an excellent project for us. Signage is another thing, as Councillor Surratt just mentioned. I've had 2 community groups already contact me that they're interested in having some signage put up. So I think we started a good thing, started in Tuscan, kept rolling through other areas, and it just adds so much aesthetic value to our community. So that's something that I'll be definitely working on. In terms of the municipality in general, recreation is always a big focus for me, and it's a legacy that I feel that my dad started many, many years ago when recreation was always important to him, and he started with multipurpose court in Quinnen. We've continued on with tennis courts. We made a strategic plan for the Argyle Recreation Commission, so we prioritized the infrastructure, the recreation infrastructure that needs work, and since we've done that, we've had a lot of upgrades made, and our facilities are getting better and better all the time. So trails, that's an important one. We've also talked recently about the Glenwood Park, and we're not going to give a lot of information, but we're talking about it, and we have some ideas that will hopefully be happening pretty soon there as well. Community walls are important, as everybody else has mentioned, and that ball, I feel like we have that ball rolling as well. Regionally, when we're talking about working with the other municipalities in the town, the Mariner Center, we all know, is probably number one. It's a huge project. It's something that we really have to think about how we're going to be able to do this affordably. We can't do it alone. We're going to need other avenues of funding from other levels of government, and we're really going to have to work together to come up with a plan that is going to be economically feasible for all of us. YMCA. Argyle is always at the table when there's conversations about the YMCA. We've supported the YMCA, and we felt the loss as well, and hopefully we can all work together to come up with a solution. And doctor recruitment is the last one that I'm going to talk about. I've sat on the doctor recruitment committee. I think some of the best money that we've invested as a team here is in the community navigator. Since I've been on the committee and we've hired the community navigator, we've hired 13 new doctors in this area in various fields. And that, we know that's only been in the last couple of years. So I just hope that that work continues. Again, thank you to the residents of District 5, and I look forward to working with the new councillors, and glad to be back with this team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Albright. Councillor Richard Donaldson.
Again, I'd like to thank the residents of District 6 for having faith in me and re-elected me. And it's so tough following Nicole, because she says everything that I was going to say, or most everything. And but for locally in my district, I heard a lot to do with the Glenwood Park. I got to admit, I didn't realize that people were using it as much as they were, and that they would like to have some added facilities there, which I will be pushing for, along with you, your chairman of the Recreation Commission. And another thing, I think I'm the only, Milt Calvin would be the only other councillor without a fire department in their district, but he does have a nice well. And we have no way of having public water in our communities. So a community well would be something that would be very important. I heard a lot to do with that. Again, Glenn brings this up quite often, but I did hear a lot to do with streetlights, especially through Lower Argyle, where most of the people do their walking and running and biking. So that's something we may have to look at as a strategy going forward. Regionally, the biggest issue is, Councillor Surratt hit on it, is the reason for a season, negative press. I mean, it was almost impossible to campaign while that was going on in a fishing community like I represent, because that's all that was on people's mind. And it was at the early stages, so people were really scared. They didn't know what direction things were going, and it was just turmoil all around. Hopefully now we have Alistair Surratt working on the file. Federal government seems to be listening a little more, so maybe this will get sorted around before the next summer season comes along. And working with our partners regionally, that has improved a lot in the years that I have been here, and there's room for a lot more improvement. I think of when it comes to the garbage pickup. I mean, why couldn't there be one contract for the whole region, right? Like we have 3 different contracts, and it's all going to the same place. It's all being dealt with the same. There's areas where we can work with our partners and get things done. We do very well on the Industrial Commission. We work well there. Nicole, I won't mention it again with the doctor recruitment. I mean, that's been one of the biggest success stories in the last few years. So, and we had them before, and I was skeptical when we started a new one up. Boy, this one really, the right people, people working together, just worked out. There's more and more I could say, but a lot of it's already been said, so I'll pass it on to District 7.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Kathy Moore.
Thank you and good evening. Thank you to the residents of District 7 for giving me another 4 years. I'll start with my district because they're the ones that put me in there. So we have to improve the water tank. It's on Willett Road, and there's a lot of repairs to do with the water facility that we have there. That's an ongoing thing, but the water tank is not going to be changed right away. So just cosmetically, I think we have to fix that up. I'd like to see more funding to the Rails to Trails. I'm always trying to push for that because I think it touches the whole municipality. So I think it's important. And another thing I'd like to work on is we have a lighthouse in Lower East Pubnico, and I'd like to clear the path that people used to be able to walk down there. That's something that people would like to see. Signage is another thing that came up lately as well. I have a library in my district. We need a new place to put the library. So that's something that we have to work on. So those are things I'd like to see in the future months to accomplish. There's other things, of course, but I don't have all night. Issues that I feel that are important for the whole municipality, it's been touched here tonight. It's the drought. It's getting worse and worse. It's not starting just in the summer months. It's starting earlier in the spring, then going, and it's still going on. The fire departments, along with EMO, are currently still working on it. They're still bringing water, helping residents. Wells are bone dry in some areas. In my area, there's 8 wells that haven't come back. So, and I like to see that the water loan program continues to help these people out, because we have to do, something has to be done. So no water, it's not very good. And of course, I'd like to thank the fire department for doing what they're doing. I mean, this is all volunteer work, and if we don't have volunteer fire department, we don't have much in our communities. Also, lower income and senior housing, and that's been touched as well. We have an aging population. More and more people are going to need areas to live in. And I do encourage that we push our federal and provincial governments. We need bigger wharves. Our wharves are at full capacity. I know in my district there's no room, they're cramped, so we need large. So I think we should help them out to push that. And of course, fishing is a vital part of our economy, and if we don't have that in our community, we wouldn't have much. So, and also looking, supporting and dialogue with the neighboring municipalities, doctor recruitment as well, to the aquatic facility as well. That's mentioned all the time. And I believe that if we work as a team, we're going to be able to achieve our goals. So I think we have to work together. So as a councillor in my District 7, again, I thank everybody. I tend to listen to them, meet with them, hear their voices and bring their voices to the table. And I thank you, and stay safe, and merci beaucoup.
Merci, Councillor. Councillor Glendignan.
Thank you. Well, I tell you, sitting at number 8 over here, not much more to say.
Number 9.
First of all, I'd like to thank the people of District 8 for having faith in me and leaving me be their voice for the next 4 years and to represent them at the municipality of Argyle. I was gonna start off with the aquatic center and high-speed internet. Our warden blew that out of the water, and then we went to infrastructure, and that Mr. Saunier said a lot about it. Civic signs, and that Mr. Woodrow covered civic signs. Actually, that was one of the first things that got me in trouble here with this municipality when I first got elected. I was even sent a little letter about possibly going over budget, and that was some signs, but that's all right. We got lots of signs around. More signs the better. And I'm saying that as a retired paramedic, there's nothing like going out at 3 o'clock in the morning and trying to find a place and knowing that you're close to it, but at the same time, there's no signs. So the Mariner Center, definitely want to talk a lot more about an expansion of the Mariner Center. Again, it's going to definitely be an expensive proposition. It's something that I would definitely bring back to the people that I represent, to get their views on it, talk to people in the municipality and listen to them. The fisheries, that is this end of the province practically. You know, I don't know much that doesn't revolve around the fisheries to some one way or another. So we're on the talking about the fisheries and that. There's been a very big police presence down in the West Pubnico and Pubnico area here the last little while. I'd like to thank the RCMP for that. They are bringing a sense of safety and calmness to the area and to the people. So much appreciation for what they're doing down there in the Pubnico area. The trails, that's one thing I always like to see, and every now and then when I see Mrs. Mood, I give her a little nudge to see when we're going to be able to go through Yarmouth with the ATVs. I feel as though we're missing a big part of tourism there that we could work in on. It works in Newfoundland, it works in New Brunswick, and I feel as though we have a beautiful end of the province up here to show them, and I'd like to tap in on some of that. Street lights, people the last month and a half down home have been talking about how dark it is around the Pubnico area, and there's even some more lights that have been installed on homes and businesses down in the area. And when all's said and done, I guess I want to be known as a people's person and a councillor that's there for the people. And that's how I look at going my next 4 years. That's how I went my last 4 years, and it seemed to have worked out all right for me. And so they know I'm available practically 24 hours a day, and it's just a matter of calling my number. And if somebody feels as though it's 3 o'clock in the morning that they have a concern, it's worthwhile waking me up and telling me, and that I'm ready to listen to them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon, and don't worry about any sort of repetition. It's actually, we're taking notes, so it's interesting, and it's important that we hear that the priorities are in some way the same. So we're taking notes, and we're going to take this information and pull it together and say, okay, what things are similar, right? So that helps us as staff align with what you're thinking. So thanks, and I appreciate District 9. You're on that note, Councillor Donstremo, you're on.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to a big thank you to the residents of District 9 to have confidence. Merci beaucoup. There's a few. Again, when you're in District 9, you're number 9 on the list. There's many of the things that I want to talk about that I've already mentioned, but one that hasn't been mentioned is the West Pubnico Sewer. Yes. As the chairman of the West Pubnico Sewer, we had for the new councillors, we had a brand new sewer plant installed, must be about 10 years ago or so, I'm just guessing. And we've always had a smell problem there. I want to thank thank the people that live on the Rock Road for being patient with the sewer plant, with myself and with the municipality, because they have had to endure, especially on the westerly wind, some smells there. But I'd like to tell them and tell the whole world that we are in the process of getting a dewatering unit. It's a low-speed screw press. And it's going to be item 10D on the agenda, so everybody will find out about it. Anyway, and if there is a motion to be made, I want to make it, please. I'm just telling you right now. Anyway, but everybody that's been sitting around the table knows about the Pubnico sewer and the smell. Been a pet peeve of mine for the last quite a while. Glenn, Councillor Digdon mentioned the trail. The trail is, kind of complete, but I'm sure there's always things that we can improve on. We have a really good volunteer committee. People, we usually, find the volunteers, including Councillor Digdon and myself, and go out and put gravel, and the trail has been used a lot. Now that's the Pubnico Point Trail, the one on the end of the Pubnico Point, next to the windmills. So always enjoy helping that one out. Somebody mentioned housing, and this is not one that was on my radar a few years ago, but more and more with people getting older. I'm actually very fortunate that my mom and dad are still around and still living in their own house. But there's many seniors who are living alone and trying to pay for a house and all this. So it's gets expensive. So housing, low income, and housing for seniors, and just housing in general. Listening to the news, in Halifax, for example, the rents are going way up, and people can't afford to actually live, and so they have to make choices between medication and food, or so that may make its way here eventually. So I'd like to make sure we get ahead of that. Just trying to think what else I had. And then we mentioned community wells. We've been very fortunate that in my district in Lower West, we have a community well that is donated by a local. I don't know how long that's going to go on for, but it would be good to secure wells across the municipality in case, and if we don't have to use it ever again, well, that's a good thing, but at least to have them there. So anyway, many of the other things have all been mentioned, so I just take this opportunity to thank my constituents and congratulate the rest of the council for your election or acclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donstremo. Next time, in 4 years' time, we'll do random picks so that District 9 doesn't have to wait as long to do
I'll
it.
probably end up last.
That could also be, that is statistically possible. So, I also thank those of you who are looking to put your names in for Warden and Deputy Warden for your patience as we run down the agenda. So just next on the agenda here, if I can pull it up, because I just lost it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, I apologize. Is the election of the warden. So the process will be fairly simple. I will open up call for nominations. The nomination of the warden will occur in the exact same way as the deputy warden. I will call for nominations. The nomination will be made by a councillor and seconded. At that point, I will ask if the person interested is accepting of that nomination, and then we will go through the process again until, if we only have one person interested, that person will become either the warden or deputy by acclamation. If there is an election that is required, ballots will be passed out to each and every one of you, and you will make a private vote, and that private vote you will write the name of the person that you wish to have be successful in that position. The vote would be counted off-site by myself and the municipal clerk. The vote is secret, and the ballots are destroyed after an election if we require one. So without further ado, I would open up the call for nominations for the position of warden. The nominations are now open.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Danny Muse.
I have a motion to nominate Danny Muse. Do I have a seconder?
I second it.
I have a seconder. Danny Muse, do you accept the nomination that has been made and seconded?
Yes, I will.
we now have one candidate officially for warden. I will call 3 times for other nominations. If there are no other nominations, I will close after the 3rd time. Are there any other nominations for warden? Are there any other nominations for warden? Last call. Are there any other nominations for warden? The nominations for warden have closed. We have an acclaimed position. Warden Danny Muse, congratulations. You will be sworn in after the deputy warden is selected. You will both be sworn in at the same time by Judge. Congratulations. And so we will go right into the deputy warden selection or election of the deputy warden. So I will open up the nominations for deputy warden. They are now open.
I would like to nominate Councillor Nicole Albright.
Nomination is moved. Is there a seconder?
I will second that.
Seconded by Danny Muse. Warden, that would be Warden Muse. Councillor Nicole Albright, do you accept the nomination for deputy warden?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we have one official nomination for deputy warden. I will do the same as I did for warden. Are there any other nominations for deputy warden? Are there any other nominations for deputy warden? Last call. Are there any other nominations for deputy warden? The nominations for deputy warden are closed. Congratulations, Deputy Warden Nicole Albright, you are Deputy Warden for the Municipality of Argyle. So we will head immediately into the oath for the warden and deputy warden. We'll do the warden first and the deputy warden after. After the swear-in, I will abdicate the throne to the warden, and we will continue the agenda as planned.
I wish we could do it here.
I want to stay on this side. So take food, food down from the water.
Stay right here.
Oh, this is how it is.
I, Danny Hughes, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law, and that I am duly qualified as required by law for the office of Warden of the Municipality of Argyle, and that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially execute the duties of the office to which I have been elected to the best of my knowledge and ability, and that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of any partiality or either undue execution of the duties of my office.
I, Nicole Albright, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and her successors according to law, and that I am duly qualified as required by law for the office of Deputy Warden of the Municipality of Argyle, and that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially execute the duties of the office to which I have been elected to the best of my knowledge and ability. and that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of any partiality or other undue execution of the duties of my office.
Congratulations to both the warden and the deputy warden. A big thank you to Judge Tim Laundrie, who consistently every 4 years comes to take the oath of office, both councillor and warden, deputy warden. I know you're a busy man. We thank you sincerely for coming.
Call me again in 4 years.
We'll call you again in 4 years. We'll be in the same. We won't be in the same place, but we'll,
I'll find it. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This represents a moment that I, before going to pass on to our warden, the acclamation of our deputy warden. Nicole Albright represents the first female warden or deputy warden the municipality of Argyle has ever elected or appointed. So it seems that 2020 is a year of firsts in other countries and perhaps in a lot of countries. So we're not certainly we're no different. So congratulations, and Mr. Warden, I pass the chair to you, and we'll just switch chairs. Yeah.
Do you know what to do, Danny?
I'll ask the deputy. I guess the next one was a motion to destroy the ballots, but I don't think we have any ballots to destroy. The next item is the committees of council, and we have an attachment. So we'll go through each of the committees. And the way we've done it before, I guess, I mean, we have people that are in committees now, maybe they want to change, maybe this is the time to do that, but, excuse me, but anybody, if we come to a committee and someone's interested, I think we just ask for people who are interested in that, rather than go through everyone and say we need a motion, a seconder, and once we have that, then I think we'll go through and we pass a motion to accept the entire slate of committee members. So the first one is the Audit and Finance Committee, and the warden has to be on that one, and it says 4 councillors. So I'm on that name now. And we have Councillor Kathy Bork and Councillor Calvin Dewatering. So I guess we need 2 more members on that committee. So do we see anybody? This committee is a committee that meets very, very rarely. We have been meeting once a year, but I think we're going to be meeting maybe a little more often, but I don't know. It might be at least twice a year now. And we have a member of the public on the committee as well now. So anyway, do we have anybody who's would like? Okay, we have Deputy Warden. Kathy,
I still want to
you
stay
still
on,
want to be
yes.
on there. Calvin wants to still be on there. Do we need a 4th? Because it says warden and 4. We should have 1 more. if anybody's interested in putting their name.
Don't jump in all at once.
It's not a committee that meets very often, like I said, we meet with the auditors and basically,
For
you know,
financials.
yeah.
The only thing I was gonna say, I don't know if our newer councillors are looking at going on any of the committees, but I was in the same boat as what you people are 4 years ago. I went on some of the committees and it's a great learning experience. It really helps a person out as to see what's going on and how things work.
Yeah, well, after that being said, yeah, I'll jump in.
It's okay, so we
Yeah.
have 4 names.
Very good, Gordon.
Yeah.
So, we don't have to make a motion on every one of these, or do we? No. We'll go through the whole
So
slate
particular.
first.
We should probably, I guess, tell people what the time of the meetings are, depending on their work schedule. I was just thinking,
Exactly, that's right.
the audit committee is usually just before supper or 4:30. When we usually have it?
Well, Mr.
Yes.
Warden, the audit committee should meet at least twice a year, and usually it meets in September, very close to the actual approval of the financial statements, and that can be done, that's typically done either on the same day or very soon before the first or last meeting in September.
Yeah.
And then the one before it really should be in the months of probably May or even earlier to plan the audit.
Yeah.
So that the audit committee can be involved in the planning. Audit and finance committee sounds intimidating, but you are well supported by staff and the auditors in that committee. So the first meeting would be very flexible in terms of time.
Okay. Next one is Planning Advisory Committee. Again, Warden and 4 councillors. So there's 4 now, but myself being one of them, we should probably have one more name. We have Nicole, Kathy, and Glenn at this point. Do we have anybody else who would be interested? That's another committee that meets as needed. It's not, there's
I'll
nothing-
jump in.
Okay?
Yeah.
We have Councillor Sonia. So we have 4 names for that, plus the warden. Accessibility Advisory Committee, that's only 1 councillor. We have Councillor Digdon on there now. Councillor Digdon, are you still,
I'd be willing to stay on
you
it.
still willing to stay? Is there anybody else who can show interest?
If
Yes?
possible, I wouldn't mind if we could have an alternate on it. And the only reason I'm saying is a lot of times it's a committee that meets in the morning or so. And right now, for the next 6 months, that's gonna be quite hard for me because of my schedule. And that, so if we could have an alternate, it would be great, really.
Do we have anybody who would be interested in putting their name as an alternate? And like I said, this meets in the mornings, right?
It's a hard there,
Yeah, it's
honestly.
not. See, I can attend any of these meetings, but if I attend, I'm not a voting member unless I'm an alternate,
That's correct, unless you're the actual member.
unless I'm the actual alternate. I don't mind putting my name in as an alternate.
I would appreciate that,
Yeah.
really. It's a very important committee, I feel.
It is a very important
And there's
committee.
just times I feel as though, because of my work schedule, that I have a hard time being at these meetings, but at the same time, in my heart, I feel it's a very good committee
Right.
to be on.
If I may,
Okay, so I will put my name in as an alternate.
okay. If I may, Mr. Warden, and to council, this is an ad hoc committee, which means that when the work is done, the committee will be done. So I don't expect this committee to have a long stint of work for 4 years. So I expect the work to come in fairly nicely for the next 12 months and then probably sunset.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Accessibility. Heritage Advisory Committee, we have 2 councillors. At this point, we have Councillor Dickon and Councillor Surratt, 2 councillors. Again, this is a committee that doesn't meet very, very often, only if there's applications and whatever. So
I'll stay on.
you'll stay on, Glenn?
I will. Thank
Stay
you.
on. Fire Committee, again, it's the warden and 2 councillors. And right now, there's myself and Councillor Surratt on there. So perhaps we should have one more name on there, because
I'll stay on, and to be very honest with you, really, then you've been to some of those meetings and it's, one is enough, in my opinion, but I know what it says there.
Exactly.
And I'm not trying to, not to ask somebody who wants to come in, but really, I
Because-
sit down and if you need something, you've been there.
Yes. Well, there will be, if the warden is 1 and 2 councillors, okay? So we would still have 2.
That's right, so,
And we've only had 2 all along, as far as I know.
that's all we've ever had. That's it.
And I'm gonna tell you, if I've received 2 notices of those meetings, I have missed many, because I never got notified that the meetings were happening, and then so if we've
They
talked.
don't have your email yet?
No, they never, I've tried and tried, every time I would go there, add me to your list, and never, ever, and the only times I would know is you would let me know,
And that you know, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, very good.
okay?
I'll just see
So
to
are we
that.
okay with that, with just having,
I don't think there's any terms of reference that support that committee. So I think the traditional membership requirement is just that, is tradition.
yeah,
So if you want to change your tradition, I don't think there's any, again, terms of reference on their end that would require 3 councillors. So I would recommend that you drop 1, if that's the will. of council.
exactly, and I would.
And I agree with that.
I would agree with that,
100%,
Okay.
100%.
yes.
So the choice that remains is will we retain the 2 names that are on the list?
I'm
or-
staying on.
And then as warden, I guess I'm
Right.
automatically
Get
on.
your name there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Recreation Commission, 3 councillors. We now have Councillor Albright and Councillor Bork, and there's a vacancy right now. So if someone's interested in sitting on the Recreation, please put your hand up.
I will.
You will? Were you interested,
A bit, yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
and this is,
That's what we got
you know, and
right
that's fine, if 2 and then 1 agrees, no, it's fine, we,
Yeah.
you know, we don't have to,
We're
Because-
both sports guys, so.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's fine, Ted.
Okay.
Yeah, you join that.
okay, so Ted's on yet, and we have Kathy,
So Mr. Warden, we have people that may not
that's
want
right,
to continue
Nicole,
on that, so they may.
Nicole,
I'm staying on. I do.
you're staying on that, and you're staying on
Yes.
that.
Very good, very good.
I was there a lot of years.
So is that one is good? Tuscan Wastewater Commission, 3 councillors, we've always had 2, myself and Guy, and I think the reason we're on that is because we're in this area.
That's right.
And should we have a 3rd, it says we need 3. This committee meets, it says once or twice, and I would say probably once.
Once.
And we
Is it
meet
a
unless
It's not
there's a problem.
complicated. Not complicated.
Unless something comes up
Yeah.
that we need a meeting, you know, but generally we've been meeting once, and that's when the budget comes around and we need to approve a budget for it. But if someone else is interested in sitting on that committee,
If you want a 3rd, I'll put my name, because I'm probably the closest.
you're closest
Yeah.
to,
Yes, sure.
to this area,
That'd be great.
okay, good enough. West Pubnico Wastewater Committee, 3 councillors, we now have Calvin, Kathy, and Glenn, and they're from that area again, which is, are you still willing to sit on that
I
committee?
guess I don't have much of a choice, do I, after that?
After that speech, number 9.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Wedgeport Wastewater. This is new. We have, it says 3 councillors, but I guess there's a recommendation, suggestion for 2. Is that what I read here?
Yes.
There you go.
I'll jump
Again?
into that one.
Yes?
Good.
Probably the Westport people
That's right.
will be. Again, that's the same thing. It's only if there's problems and you need to meet. Other than that, it's usually just to meet for the budget and whatever else.
Yep.
We've had 2 meetings since the Wedgeport wastewater committee has gone in. The first meeting we set the rate, and then the second meeting we dropped it, and I expect the third meeting we'll drop it again, so it'll be superstars.
I like the way you think.
Can we expect that for the West Pubnico floor?
Unfortunately, it's a different system.
We have the municipal alcohol and substance abuse. 1 councillor. Guy, you have served on that.
Yes, I'd like to stay on if
You'd like to stay
people
on.
don't mind. I certainly would. I've been involved in that. I like that. Yeah, that's a good.
The Carlton River Steering Committee.
I'm dropping off of
You're
that.
dropping off of that one.
I went on because I was the warden, so, but it
Okay.
doesn't necessarily
It
have to
doesn't
be.
have to be, okay.
Oh, well.
It's way too scientific for me.
I see.
And it was to do with the blue-green algae, right?
Yes.
And the problem has virtually disappeared in lots of places because of the mink farming, but they're still continuing on with their meetings and
And the meetings are.
and they're
twice a
Zoom
year.
now. They're Zoom or they're usually at the municipality district of Yarmouth building up in
Oh,
Hebron.
okay, okay.
And a lot of interesting people on it. It's just, I've had my stay there and
Yeah. Anybody's interested in that?
there's a Zoom meeting, I think, Friday. And that will be the first one, and then the next one will be next November sometime.
Okay.
Or next April or May.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Warden, may I make a suggestion?
Yes?
For somebody interested in this one, it would make sense that somebody, as a member of the Planning Advisory Committee, also be on this, because there would be planning issues associated with this. Now, that's merely a suggestion, you don't have to do that, but it would be a good connection between what could be land use planning issues associated with
Okay.
lake use.
Well, you were on there as warden before.
Basically, we're on there because of funding. They get funding from the province,
Yes.
but they have to have municipal representation, I believe, Alan. Is basically, I sat there and listened to scientists for 3 hours, so basically what you do.
I can volunteer for that one.
You'll, Alan, do you have the Zoom meeting information for that? It's this coming Friday, I believe.
I do not, but I can get
I'll look through my emails and I'll forward it to Danny
Okay, good.
after we get done here.
Yep. Okay, regional and external board appointments. Mariner Center, we have 1 councillor, and at this point, it is Councillor Digdon.
I'd be willing to stay
You'd be
on.
willing to sit on that again? Anybody else interested? Aquatic Mariner Center expansion, that's the warden and deputy warden. So I guess that's you and I. Yarmouth and Area Industrial Commission,
Yes,
4 councillors. You want to be on there?
it was 3.
It was 4 now.
It's 3, it was.
That's correct.
It was
Yes,
4, now
yes,
it's
sorry.
It's 3, yeah, that's an error, it should only be 3.
It should be 3. I'm willing to stay on.
Okay, so there's Richard, Kathy, and Guy, and you're all willing to stay on?
Yeah. For myself and you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association, 1 councillor. We have Councillor Donchma on there now.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on.
You'd like to stay on?
Yes.
Planning Advisory.
Police.
Police
Police
advisory.
Police Advisory, sorry. police, I had to widen my print here.
What time of day is that?
Usually 1 o'clock. It's twice a year
It's
at 1
twice a
o'clock.
year.
I'd be interested on that one.
And I would be willing to let that one go if somebody else wanted to take it. It's 2 meetings a year. You basically go to the police department and they talk about kind of issues that they've seen, and any issues we as a municipality have had for policing, we can bring forward. It's interesting.
I'll jump to that, yeah. Jump in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Physician recruitment, we have Deputy Warden
Yes.
Albright, you want to stay
Yep.
on that. Western Regional Solid Waste, 2 councillors and an alternate.
Yes.
Okay, now here it says.
No,
Calvin.
I'm at the wrong one.
Number one.
I'm trying to send you an email at the same time.
We have Calvin, and we have Councillor Surratt, and myself as an alternate.
I'll stay on that.
And I would like to step off that one because it's a Monday morning, 10 o'clock
All right.
meeting, and it's a hard time for me to,
At what time?
10 o'clock in the morning. I think it's 10 o'clock, right?
Usually we
o'clock,
have to
yes,
do
it
it in
is.
the morning
Yeah,
when I have to attend.
For some reason, I always seem to be busy on Monday morning at 10
Yeah.
at that time, so.
So do we have, Councillor, anybody who would be willing? I'm willing to stay on as alternate.
So this one is waste check.
This is what we call waste check, exactly.
So this is
Recycling and all that.
education, promotion
Yes.
of separation of,
I tell you what, it's an interesting,
It's an interesting,
It is, yeah.
Very interesting.
Agreed.
I'd be interested, but the only thing is it interferes with my
com-
working hours.
It's kind of hard if
Yeah.
you're working.
How often do you meet?
They
About
need-
6 times a year.
Yeah.
This was, it's been the last couple of years, about 6 times a year.
I think in the winter months, didn't they do video or?
Yeah, sometimes you do videos, you
Yeah.
Je crois qu'il est là, c'est à Western, right now, 2 councillors,
It's called waste check.
once every 2 months.
Oh, it's like,
Yeah, I could go for that, I guess.
It's a good way to meet other councillors from the region and
Exactly,
Yeah.
because it covers.
great point.
Yeah, from Digby to, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Ted,
covered.
Ted, Ted.
Yeah.
Western Counties Regional Library, I'm on that one now, and I would rather someone take it if they can.
And when do they?
That meeting is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if nobody, can I think about it and keep going?
Can we
I-
be,
I was-
can we be 2 of us and then one can't go, the other one goes?
We've never had an alternate, I don't believe, and the reason is that I think there's enough members that if a member can't make it, we're never everybody there, right? Every municipality has one, from Shelburne, Lockport, I think, as well. And we have members of the public, members, we have government appointed members. It can be interesting. We meet monthly, and it's usually on a Thursday, and I'm pretty sure it's 1 o'clock.
for Mr. Warden, and this is gonna sound like a gentle nudge. I don't mean it this way, but it is a good opportunity to meet the mind and management of the library board, and having the Pubnico Library on our list of 5-year, anyone in that area, and I recognize that it can be a bit of a trek to make the meeting. Do they do Zoom at all?
We're doing Zoom now.
You are now?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
we've done Zoom since COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's merely a gentle suggestion that those of you closest to the Pubnico Library might have an interest in engaging in the other.
I'm interested, it's just,
Just that, can you, I mean, you would attend when you can attend. I
yeah,
mean,
that's
it's-
right. If it's Zoom, it's not so bad.
No,
Yeah.
that's right, but we don't know how long Zoom is going to take place. I mean, but-
I can go on and I can manage it somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Certainly, we've had issues of conflict of schedule before, and we've made adjustments through the year if we have to, so. it's
Exactly,
not etched in
exactly.
stone.
And it can happen, I mean, if we see that it's just not working for you, there's nothing that says that it can't be changed. All right, and they're looking for a chairperson, by the way.
That's interesting. That's interesting. No wonder you want out there.
Just kidding. It is, it's, I mean, I'm saying, they're gonna ask you to be the chair. No, it is.
Not this year.
We haven't had we haven't had our slate of officers elected yet because we wanted to wait till we didn't know who was gonna be on the committee. Just thought I'd throw that in. Yarmouth County Solid Waste Park, that's a landfill.
Yep.
We have Councillor Dawson and Councillor Surratt on there. You're both interested?
No, I'm not on that one this time.
You're not on that one this time.
Removing myself.
You've been on there for a while.
For 8 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
Chairman for the last
And you've
4.
been chair for the last 4. So we need someone else to take over. I have been the alternate on that one. It's not marked here, but
You are the alternate.
I was appointed the alternate at one of our meetings here. I don't mind staying as an alternate, but I'm not sure that I want to jump into, the thing with my committees, I've had a lot of committees in the last 4 years, and being warden I found that maybe if I can cut back on some of the committees, I certainly would appreciate it if I can do that, and I'm on committees now that I wasn't before because of working as well, so do we have anybody that would be interested in sitting on that?
When are those meetings?
That's a morning meeting,
That's a
that's
morning
why.
meeting again.
That's why we have Danny as an alternate.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
It's hard. I've attended quite a few meetings because of being an
Conflict.
alternate as well.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can take a position on that one.
Then I won't have an alternate.
We'll look here for an alternate. So I will take Guy's position, not as chair, but as, but as on the committee. And as a member of the committee. Now, we should have an alternate of that.
No
Because
question.
it's very difficult to have a quorum
quorum.
at that meeting. There's always, there's enough members, but for some reason, is it because it's in the morning?
You should shift it in at night or in
And it
the
didn't.
afternoon. So it should be done, that's my opinion.
I think so too. I mean, a lot of councillors are working.
But see, there's a lot of staff that attend that meeting,
Yeah, and they don't want to pay them the extra.
and they don't want to pay them after hours.
It's a great point.
They do it in their time. Can we have an alternate? Would someone be willing to put their name as an alternate? They meet at the Yarmouth Town Hall.
It's been Zoom.
It's been Zoom lately again, and they meet at Yarmouth Town Hall.
So that's a monthly one?
And this one here, where am I?
It says monthly, but it's not.
No, it's usually every 2 months, and if we have a quorum, sometimes
Yeah,
it's 4 times a year, the way it works out.
yeah.
It's cool, we buy excavators and all kinds of stuff.
I'm looking to, since I dropped one, I'm looking to pick one up. I was kind of hoping to pick up the next one, but maybe somebody else around the table has interest in the Western Regional Enterprise one.
I think you'd be a good fit on
Yeah, I
the
do
solid
too.
waste one.
I think the.
As an alternate?
it'd be
No,
good.
I think you should let Danny stay as alternate, because when I'm truck driving, he fills in for me.
So it says monthly, but it's not?
No, it's I would say, supposed to be 6 times a year.
All right, I'll go on it then.
As an alternate? Or as a
No, as a
member?
regular.
Oh,
Apparently you're the alternate,
That's
Dan.
good. I'll take alternate.
Not gonna stay here all night.
Okay, the Western Regional Enterprise Network Liaison and Oversight Committee, it's vacant. I didn't realize I was alternate on that one, but I guess I am.
I thought it was myself. Danny, honestly, I've taken this guy's place, I'd like to know
I know.
how many times I was gone.
I have never,
They sent me the emails and Lucia had come and that's I've been going.
So perhaps, Mr. Warden, in the interest of clarifying that once and for all, let's just assume both positions are empty right now
Yes.
and fill them both the way you want them to be filled.
So that one, once or twice a year,
Put my name there. I've been going anyhow.
Is the
you will be as a member?
Remember,
Okay.
if, unless you want it, Danny.
Right.
That's what I figured.
So, okay, and I can be the alternate. Unless someone else is interested in that one.
So this one is not the board for
No,
the
it's
Western.
the board.
Liaison oversight.
Right. They have a board full of business professionals that advise the CEO. What the Liaison and Oversight Committee does is they basically take instruction from the board and any concerns that this council might have about the rent and what they're doing, they flow those concerns to the councillor rep. So that's the role. It's a good way to understand what's happening at the regional level for economic development. It's a steep learning curve, no question. But I just wanted to give you a little bit more detail because I know it's
It's very interesting. I find it very interesting the times I've been there. You learn a lot and you meet a lot of different people I'd never seen before. They're from different counties. Yeah, anyhow. Yeah.
So if someone wants to be the alternate, by all means. If not, I'll let them.
You will need to go very much, believe me.
No,
I'm
no,
gonna be
you
there.
attend your meetings, yes,
Then I'll just retire, so it's,
exactly.
I'll be there.
Okay, I'll take that. Yarmouth International Airport Corporation, one councillor, and that's vacant.
I'll take that.
You take the airport?
Jump, yeah. Unless, Glenn, you want it?
No.
I'll certainly take that.
I'm very interested in it, and that's one thing I'd like to know here now, for the new councillors or anyone else that may be interested. When these meetings are going on, I believe we are allowed to sit in as councillors, not to talk, but just to sit in on these meetings.
You're allowed to sit in any committee meeting that is public. Any councillor can come as an observer. You just don't, if there's in camera, we've sat in camera, but I don't believe we're supposed to sit in camera if you're not part of the committee itself, so.
I think the general rule is that you're not supposed to be in the in-camera session if you're not a voting member.
Right.
However, there might be situations where that particular board may make a different decision.
Yes.
So they may want to engage every councillor in the room on a particular decision. That would be up to them.
Exactly.
And of course, even if you are not a board member, you'd still have to hold confidence in those circumstances. So we have seen a situation where non-voting councillors have gone into in-camera, whether it was intentional or by mistake. And but the general rule is that's when only the voting members. General rule.
Yes.
But I know I've stayed in some of them, and when it came in camera, I've actually been invited to stay. They said, no,
Yes,
you're a
we have,
councillor,
especially in
you've
this one
sworn
here.
that you can't say anything, you know.
Especially in this one here.
And that,
Yes,
yes, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, that's a decision of the board itself. If they feel that you're allowed to stay, or if they want you to stay, then you can. Yeah. But again, in camera is in competence, and you have to adhere to those same rules, whether you're a voting member or not. But anyway, that's not something here anyway that's something that we individually.
Mr. Sonia has a,
Who plays part in these committees? Is it Argyle, Yarmouth, and who else?
And town. And the board has public members on there as well, the airport, yes, public members on there as well. But each unit has one representative on there, like the town, municipality of Yarmouth, and the municipality of Argyle, because they're all owners. So did we come up with an alternate on that, or?
So Councillor Suda indicated he was interested, and that was where we would open a discussion, so
Okay.
we don't know if.
So we
anybody else
don't
is
have
interested.
anybody that could be an alternate then, at this point?
When do they meet? When does that one meet?
Meet in the afternoons,
Okay.
but
3 o'clock?
it can be late
Okay.
afternoon.
Okay.
Usually 3:30.
Yeah, it's typically no earlier than 2, typically 3 to 5
Yes.
is their meeting times. Now, these meeting times can be adjusted.
I can be the alternate, and as an alternate, I can still go.
And you
if I
we
want
can
to.
go
Yeah.
anytime,
Yes,
exactly.
on top of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
remember when Lucia and I fought for that one the first year?
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
yeah.
Lucia got it. He said he wished I had.
Okay, so,
That's interesting.
Deputy Warden Albright, you
I'll be
will
the
go as alternate.
Yeah.
So that's covered. Where are we here? Regional Emergency Management Organization, REMO. That's not the same as what we meet. No, we're the executive committee. We also have an executive committee where the warden and one member, and I think Glenn, which I don't see it here, but that's a different,
We haven't met for that one though since Remo was formed. Once Remo
Oh,
formed,
gotcha.
we didn't really, because we were on it with
That's
the
right.
warden and we
I
haven't
was
had
the
a.
warden, right? Yeah,
Hey,
and
yes,
I went
yeah,
to a
'cause
couple, we
Yes.
went to 2 or 3 meetings, so they haven't had a meeting since, or they
No.
would've called you.
okay.
And you replaced my name with Danny's, but they're probably never gonna meet.
So this is the regional EMO, so then we would have created that, and we would have had, I know we had executive meetings.
Yeah.
We have executive
Yeah.
meetings, that's different from this one here.
I agree. This one we may have to come back to, because I think there's actually 2 decisions we need to make there.
Okay,
Is that right?
I don't think
okay,
there's
and
a
that's
rush.
something we can deal with at our next meeting, if we have to.
Well, I think the first thing we could do probably is choose, I'll take my words back. So we could probably choose 3 members here, and then the executive committee could be chosen in the future, which I understood to be not all of the members. My recollection is that it was warden and CAOs, like 1 member and a CAO. I don't recall it being more than 1 member, but I could be wrong, because I know Glenn attended.
Yeah,
Yes.
as a member,
As a member?
yes.
Yes.
And I'd like to stay on that, because it's something.
But that's the
Yes.
executive
Yes.
Yeah.
committee, which is not the same committee that we're talking about here, or is it?
I'm just gonna pull up the Remo agreement, and while you
Okay,
go to the
I'll
next
go to the
one,
next one.
I'll have potentially
Okay.
an answer.
The next one, appointment of councillors as representatives, and there's one here. It's the Conseil Développement Économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse, which is CDNA. I am the member on that one. We meet in Halifax, or we meet by Zoom right now, but we meet in Halifax. It's quarterly meetings. I would have liked someone else to take that if they could, but you need to be French. Everything is done in French. And if we go back to our meetings where we can meet in person, the meetings are in Halifax.
How many meetings per year?
Four meetings per year. I'm also on committees of the board that we meet, but these meetings, the committees of the board meet in the communities we meet in either Argyle or Clare, because that's where our representatives meet. But you see, that's another thing too. A lot of these boards, especially the boards, there's committee members, committees that are formed from the board. And then what you see here may not be exactly, you know, once you're on a board, they're always looking for committee members. But
You're shooting yourself in the foot, Danny. You're shooting yourself in the foot, you shouldn't have Danny know that.
I think most of us know, but.
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Oh, is that right?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes, yeah, yes. But anyway, I guess I can stay on that. The reason I'm saying that is I've been on that now for 4 years because the warden was, our previous warden was on there for I don't know how long. And I took it because I had time to do that, but the reason I'm saying that I'm not sure that I'm contributing what I should be contributing to that organization. I have discussed it with the board before, that I told them that I would probably be stepping down, that I didn't feel that it was my place, because if you're in a group and you don't really understand what you're going for and what you're doing, then you may as well not be there. And every time I mentioned that I was going to step down, I was encouraged to stay. No, you're doing fine, you're doing fine. And I don't know why they think that, because if I'm not happy, if I'm not doing what I think I should be doing, then my feeling is I probably shouldn't be there. So, if nobody wants to, it's not an easy, you know, because it's away, it's in Halifax. I will stay on there, and we'll decide later on if things change.
You're doing fine. We all think you're doing fine.
Oh, yeah.
Great job, Danny. Great job. Wow. Good job.
The next one is Nikhil Home. Okay, yes, so I said I would stay, right? So you got that. Nikhil Home for Special Care, 3 councillors, myself, Councillor Albright, and Councillor Bork. We meet monthly. The meetings are 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, the 3rd Wednesday, I think, of every month.
I'd be willing to let that go, and that's a good one for a new counselor to get into. It's not
Yes.
really complicated,
Exactly.
and it's interesting, but you know.
Sold.
Okay.
Very good. Very good.
I could let it go too if another new counselor wanted to take it.
Oh, my God.
I've always been interested on that
Are
board,
you?
but I have a conflict of interest there, so.
Oh, you do?
Right.
Right.
It is.
It doesn't matter.
I don't-
Eugene was on there when his brother was the
My
cook
sister
there.
was
Probably was a conflict too,
Huh?
and it was probably a conflict too, so,
Yeah. All right, your wife works
yeah.
there. That's right.
I would steer away from that.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's probably enough, I mean, anyway, I won't speak.
comfortable.
That's
right.
correct.
He's not staying.
That's correct.
That's not-
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
suggest, but then
Yeah.
comfort says a lot.
If you think you've got one, you probably not.
Yeah.
The one thing that there is a personnel committee. We deal with the issues of the home as a whole, more than we deal with the actual personnel. Because when it comes as a personnel issue, then it goes to the personnel committee, right?
Oh, I get you.
It's, see, the director there has the right to hire and, you know,
Yeah.
they do that themselves. It doesn't come to the board for hiring, okay?
That's a good thing.
So, I guess I can stay on that one. So that's all I have. Are we missing something?
There's one more.
Choice.
Choice.
Keep going down, one more.
Oh, a little further. Community housing options, oh, okay, I'm on that one. This is a committee again that we meet quarterly. It's a group that was formed more for discussions on affordable housing and whatever. There's groups in Digby, Shelburne, and ourselves in Yarmouth. It can be interesting. We've worked on, I've been on it for almost 8 years now. I was on there in my first term. I stayed. We're more of a representative. I don't know if, it's definitely not a committee of council by any means, but it's good to have a representative. They like to have someone from each municipality if they can. If someone wanted to take that, I'd certainly let it go. It's, the meetings again are 10 in the morning when we meet. It's usually on a Wednesday as well, at 10 in the morning. And we've been meeting, again, by Zoom. And when we do meet, we meet at the municipal office in Hebron. So if someone wants to take that, I'll certainly wouldn't mind letting it go if we have someone interested. Going once?
If they were 6 o'clock in the evening, you'd have a lot more that would.
Yeah, I know.
After 6.
And that's the thing about being retired as well. I mean, I have to accept that. I'll stay on it. Okay?
So there was one that remained, it was Remo.
Yes.
So I looked at the agreements and what's on the agenda is that there are 3 members. That is not correct. There are 2 members. So you have been meeting as the executive committee. It was Warden Muse and Councillor Digdon. If you're both willing to stay, then you have your 2 members.
Okay.
The EMO committee had 3, but Remo has 2. That's the
Okay, so we don't have 2 Remo, we don't have the EMO meeting,
No.
exactly. And that's where I think there was 3, exactly.
Yeah, there's a planning committee that hasn't met, and the planning committee actually only met once, and that's a broader group with ground search and rescue, fire departments, etc. That's the planning committee. But with COVID, we've been planning less and doing more, so we haven't had the opportunity to meet.
That's right. So this one here, the warden has to be one. It says warden is one.
Yeah.
And Councillor Digdon, you're the second one. Would you like to stay on there?
Please.
So now that covers all the committees. So what we would need now is a motion to accept the members of the committees.
Mr. Warden,
Yes.
could you remind me again who's on the Remo?
On the Remo, myself and Councillor Digdon.
Okay. Very good, thank you. I thought there was the warden and 2 councillors.
And no, it's warden in one.
I'm sorry.
That's the way,
I missed that. That's what I
that's the way it's
missed.
listed there, but it's wrong. The CAO is there,
Very good,
Yeah.
thank you.
yes. So we need a motion now,
So move.
Second,
moved and seconded, and that the motion is to accept all the committee members as previously discussed.
big job done.
So if we're ready for the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. Expected that one to take a bit of time.
Yes, important.
Okay, notice period municipal policy, Article C1 Code of Conduct. Is that just for information at this point?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Warden, it is an amendment to your current code of conduct policy.
Okay.
So this is your
First.
1 week period.
Yes.
For those of you that are new to the table, when policies get passed, they don't get passed right away. You get 7 days to read it through, and we typically do that by putting it on the agenda. So at the next meeting, we will look for an approval of this code of conduct. The code of conduct is a little bit more detailed around relationships between staff council CAO and certain other changes that were made around, well, I mean, I won't go into great detail at this point because you never asked me to, but so there are some improvements to the code of conduct. It looks a lot closer to the templated code of conduct that was issued and supported by the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing. There's just a little bit more information on what happens when we breach the code. There's a little bit more detail around, okay, well, if it's this is the corrective action, this is how a complaint is made, and this is how it's addressed.
Okay.
So I would suggest that you have time to pass this as a council. And I think this one is important to read through quite deeply because at the end, this is one of the very few policies that councillors actually sign and say, okay, we're gonna do this. It's almost like a declaration, you know. There is one for staff as well, and that one is being amended, so that one will come to your attention for approval as well.
Councillor Surratt.
I guess I'm misunderstanding. You said amendment, I don't see anything highlighted. Is there supposed to be, is that what that amendment means? I don't see anything highlighted there. I read it a couple of times, but I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, we didn't highlight the changes to the original. We have done that in the past, you're correct.
Yeah.
But what we can do for the next meeting before your decision is we can compare the old and the
Could
new.
you? Yes,
and
and
show you what the new additions are. That's a good comment, thank you.
Okay, so this is just your notice so that we can deal with this at our next meeting.
Yes, and
And do we need like a first reading? No,
No,
not for this.
not for policy.
Not for policy.
Just one other thing, this particular draft will have ample opportunity to speak about at the orientation. So this is one of
Yes.
the policies that we would raise and talk through. So you'll have a lot more chance to talk it through before you get to pass this one.
Okay. Next item is for decision, for discussion, letter of support for Nova Scotia tourism industry. This comes from Yasta. I don't know if you had a chance to read this, but it's just a letter of support that they want us to
So move.
Second.
move and seconded. Any discussion?
Are they asking for a letter or asking for support for this letter?
Well,
Okay,
Yeah.
I understood it was,
I think it, yeah,
The
okay.
letter of support, I think.
there was support, so I understood.
that's the way I read it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're ready for the question, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Accessibility Committee members, there's a recommendation here. There's been a couple of members on the committee apparently that have left the committee. And we have two names with a recommendation. Council approved the applicants provided by staff to sit on the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And the two names are Mona Doucette and Yvette LeBlanc. And again, this is a committee, it's an ad hoc committee that once the work is done, the committee's done.
And I'd like to make a motion that we accept those two names.
Second.
Mona Doucette and Yvette LeBlanc.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. Temporary borrowing resolution revised. Maybe you can take that one, CAO.
Yes, Warden, the revision is to the language in the temporary borrowing resolution did not specifically state credit union because the definition of a financial institution technically does not include the credit union as it's defined differently. So we are proposing a slight modification in language. There's no other change.
Okay.
And we would ask that a motion support that change so that we can actually bridge finance from the credit union, which is our institution of choice.
Okay.
Slow move.
Moved.
I'd second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, if you're ready for the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary-minded, carried. West Pubnico dewatering unit tender.
This is the one that I talked about earlier, so the dewatering unit, they've had the following bids have been received, so they're only one. Trident Processes Inc. With the total cost of $211,050, received October 17th. Now, there is a consideration, which is a compliant bid needs follow-up for technical details. I guess I'm gonna ask the AO Youth, where is that with, where are we with the process of the technical details?
I know that the technical details were requested. I can't confirm whether they've been received. So I know that the property, Public Works Director did request that information.
So at this time, because we don't have those, we probably don't make a motion yet until we get those?
I would suggest that technically the council has approved this as part of their capital budget. The 211,000 plus HST is approximately 39,000 below your actual budget estimate. So you're within your budget parameters. I would suggest that you could proceed with a motion that said that conditional on the technical specifications meeting our expectations that we could proceed. The staff wants permission to proceed with the process, and because we've had two bidding processes, we wanted to advise you of the process and the challenges we had and how we resolved them.
Okay.
So I believe that a motion can be made here.
All right.
And if you wish to be conservative, small c, in that motion, you can say that pending satisfactory receipt of the technical proposal.
And yeah, that's what I would like to make the motion, so.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Surratt.
Okay, especially for the new councillors that are here, I'd like to ask the CAO, if I recall way back when, they had what they call the Fournier Press or something, which was $750,000. So why are we at 211? To get rid of the stink, and the 750 would have done it, but was supposed to be by now we're 211. We were not getting into a trap, and I'll finish this by saying into a trap like the dewatering truck. We don't want to get into it with what we spend there. Are you satisfied? Has this been done? That it'll get rid of that deodorant?
So I will go back to the original project. The original project budget was 4.2 million. We were slightly over without the inclusion of a dewatering option. So we proceeded by doing the dewatering using the geotextile. Well, initially we said we were going to take the sludge out. That proved to be quite expensive. So then the next step was to do what we call geotextile bags, which is basically a bag, a soluble, like a filtered bag. So the wastewater would be separated by gravity. So basically the water would fall out of the bag and the wastewater. And
It's almost like a filter.
yes, correct. And so the poop would remain. And so that was supposed to be an odorless process. Well, it didn't go the way that we hoped because mostly due to how quickly the process was to bring sludge from start to finish. So it didn't have enough time in the system, so some of the bugs remained alive in the bag. So we made adjustments and modifications again. And then we realized we couldn't solve the problem fully. So we decided to go out and get a dewatering process, and we did a request for proposal and received a bid from a company that had a mobile dewatering, which basically was a mobile dewatering. So the water would be treated and go into the ocean, and what would remain was the solid, and that would be shipped at a far lower cost. It never worked as intended. So that currently we have a legal issue outstanding for that. So now this particular solution, Trident Processes, I can confirm that we have tested it on our wastewater system. Essentially, the best description would be that it's multiple discs that separate the water from the poop, and it comes out in a very, very solid form, and that is literally shoveled into a back of a trailer and disposed. So this is both, and so this is an interior solution. It's the first interior solution we had. The Fournier Press, quite rightly, Councillor Surratt exclaimed that it was about $700,000. It's a very complex way to squeeze the water out. The technology has changed quite a bit since that time, which would be about 8 years ago, or maybe even closer to 10.
Yeah.
And so the technology is a little bit more robust. It's a little bit smaller and less expensive. But we're confident it will result in a dewatering that doesn't stink. So the smell will remain in the interior, if there is any, would remain in the interior of the building, which will make the residents of Rock Road very, very happy, and thankfully so.
Yeah.
So and then we would be able to manage the result with our own equipment rather than bring in a third party to have it removed.
Yes.
So that is a long explanation, I understand.
No, but that's good.
If you want to go
Thank
into,
you.
if you need any more detail, we'd be happy to show you what the cost differences were between actually taking the water and the poop together off-site. That was contrary to what the plan was for the treatment plant. The treatment plant is supposed to separate dry and wet, and the wet is treated and put into the ocean. That's how it works. So we were actually not utilizing it the way that it was intended to. But I think now, finally, we're in the position where we can do that.
Merci on that, that's great.
Yeah.
Good guys.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Question?
Thanks for the explanation.
Question called. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. The next item, Christmas trees. Now that is something that's been brought up for community Christmas trees. If some communities were interested in setting themselves up with Christmas tree in their village or whatever, that there's money that's going to be, well, it might be allotted, like to each district. I read I looked at the application form, and from what I saw there, it looks like the proposal would be $250 per
$250?
district.
250.
Per district, so that if you have two villages that want, then there's going to be $250 that's going to have to be split between the
Or 4 villages.
or four
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yep.
Am I correct in saying that?
So
Because
two-
it does say district.
Right, so $250 per district, where does the $250 come from? It's approximately the cost of lighting an LED, using LED lights, for instance. It's approximately what we would pay to light our Christmas tree here in Tuscan.
Right.
So we figured that should be the amount of money. Now, if two districts want to get together and build a bigger tree, they get $500. If four, it's times.
Oh, districts, yeah.
Yes.
Districts, exactly.
Yes, so if council, so for instance, if I'm using an example, it's hard for Wedgeport because there's two. If Councillor Surratt, Albright, and yourself wanted to do a tree in Hubbard's Point, you could combine your forces and have a $750 contribution to that one tree. The only restriction is that it should be a nonprofit organization that receives the money, and the only certification that they need to provide to us is that they will do it.
That's right.
And it started with, we can't have everybody in the same place with COVID.
Yeah.
So let's have multiple trees, less groupings, and Recreation started to talk about it, and Councillor Bork really gave it some wings and
Yeah.
said we should do this. So
Great.
okay, here we are.
Great idea.
Yes. Yes.
On the opposite side of that, we'll say Danny's district, right? We'll say Avens River wanted to do a tree, right? And East Kemp wanted to do a tree, so they get 125 each, not 250 each.
That's right.
Yes, because it's a district.
Technically, unless you want to change that today. That's a very good point you raised.
Yes, and that money can be used to buy lights, to do, right?
It's to, yeah, it can be a lobster pot tree, it can
Whatever.
be lobster buoys, it can be an evergreen, it can, whatever it is that
But,
people want to
but
celebrate.
the money can be used for, if they don't have any lights, if they wanna buy lights, if they want, whatever, it goes for that. Pardon me?
Oh, I thought you said pot tree, but we're not a pot tree. It's a lobster pot tree.
Lobster
Sorry, I
pot.
misunderstood there. I
Yeah,
misunderstood.
they don't carry the lights very well. Downside.
So the total budget would be $2,250, is that correct?
That is what we're
9 times
proposing.
250, yeah.
If council wants a little bit more flexibility around that, that is entirely up to you.
I
So
just
if
see
you
it as
had-
a challenge for districts that have many communities, right?
Yes,
I agree.
Like for me, for example, I mean, I take part of Lower West and Middle West, and Glenn has West, and West Pubnico is the whole community, and we have 2 councillors, right? So that would be, $500.
Exactly.
We actually have 2 trees, there's one gonna be placed at the church and one at Dennis Point Wharf, so it'll be 250 and 250. But for other districts that have, many communities, it's, kind of challenging, I would say, so, I mean, if we could somehow increase that budget, it is Christmas, it is, so,
I feel like I'm probably gonna have 2 requests.
yeah.
I have 2 for sure myself, 2 for sure.
Yes,
Already know.
Does this come out of the recreation budget?
I am going to propose it comes out of the COVID budget,
Okay.
okay?
Oh, my God.
Because it is, in my opinion, directly related to COVID pandemic.
Okay.
I mean, it offers such a tremendous positive upside, but it is based on the fact that we don't believe we can congregate in large groups. So your points around budget, my only response to that is, it's your call. If you want to provide funding for as many communities that want to put a tree up,
I think we should.
that is entirely your authority to do that. The only thing I would require is a motion, because I don't have any of this budgeted, other than in the COVID budget. I just think that it's not for me to make that decision unilaterally, because it's a new initiative.
We were encouraged to partner, Gordon and I, because it's our first time, number one, it's a learning process. And we were also encouraged, I passed over the notion that there already is a Christmas tree being put up in Wedgeport, and that we were given the okay to even partner with them. So that's another way to approach it, I guess. And it'll help us, it'll help Gordon and I to learn how they're putting things together and all that stuff, so. My question is, they will be getting a budget, and maybe they don't need to if we get an exact amount of $500 and say, here you go. Does the Christmas tree lights and all that stuff stay with them?
It does.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I merely said 250 because it's the approximate cost of the lights for Tuscan. They can actually use the money for anything they wish, provided that it's invested in
Oh, I have no
celebration. Yeah.
Could be hot chocolate.
Yeah, if they've spent their money on the Christmas tree and they want to spend it in another celebratory event, the only thing we're looking for as council and as administration is, did you do it?
yes.
And if they managed to make money on a little bit of money for their nonprofit organization, then so be it. There's no restriction to the fund.
So what's the, oh, sorry.
I'd be willing to make a motion that we go $500 per district.
Per district.
Yeah. And that they'd automatically get the $500 if there was 1 or 2 associations or
And it's up
organizations.
to, I mean, if, let's say they could set up, if only 1 community, let's say, okay, I might have 2, but let's say I've only got 1 and they can set it up for 4. Do you give them the 5? That's my question as well.
Bring a receipt.
You know what I mean? Because we're saying it has to be used for the Christmas. And if all they're gonna use for the Christmas is 4, then perhaps they would have to submit receipts or something. I don't know, I'm just trying
Good point,
to.
Danny, good point.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 250 per tree to a maximum of 3 per district. Like, I mean, who would have any more than 3 in a district? I can't, You would be the only one
Only
likely,
one and likely won't,
and likely won't.
yeah.
So, I mean, there'll be some districts that perhaps will have two, so that would be the $500. But if there's only one, it's not
They get
fair,
250.
fair for them to get 500 and somebody that's having two only get $250. See what I'm trying to,
So,
where,
I
Know
see
where
what
you're
you're
going,
saying.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, sometimes when I'm thinking about one for sure in Calvin's district as well. You've got a couple of communities sharing in on that same tree. There's not enough space between them, and that because of distance, to have two trees, but you have a couple communities, West Pubnico and Middle West Pubnico, coming together to put up this one tree. Whereas, and again, Middle West Pubnico and Lower West Pubnico working on the tree down at the wharf this year. So that's why I was going with $500 per district, and if they knew they had $500 to spend, and that hopefully they'd bring in a receipt for $500.
Yeah, it's good, but I think the purpose here is community engagement in all of this, and everybody getting together. I'll just give you an example, our community, my district. They came up with the lobster pot tree. The church always puts up a tree, so I wasn't gonna allot the money to the church because we always put it up and people give donations. I think it has to be a community engagement. They're getting donations in for the tree because it's reflecting the fishermen or whatever. And I think if you give them, it's nice to have money, but it's good that the community gets together to do things, to get things, to acquire things themselves as well. So I don't wanna, I don't know, I have a, one side says yes and the other side says no. So
what would you say for how much of a donation then would you be willing?
well, I think
to see?
$250 a tree and no more than 2 per district. That's how I would go. I wouldn't go any more than that, but I still think it should be a community engagement. It's unreal how they've done it home. And in one day, they've had the tree pretty well all up, and now they're just waiting to everybody paint their own buoys and put, memory of everybody on there, and it's incredible how they got together and did, and people are just bringing in lights, bringing in this, bringing in that, so I think $250 is gonna be okay for them.
So what happened is, you made a motion for 5, but we never had a seconder for that motion, I don't think.
I'll second that.
Well, okay.
Because we'll get
I was
the
going
discussion
for-
going.
Yeah,
And again, that $250, like, I believe RCA, it can be used like for an evening with hot chocolate
Yes.
and festivities and that, whereas it would be saving the church putting out this money that they'd normally be putting out.
Well, it's not the church that's putting out the money for this.
Well, whoever, it's helping them out, then it's, it would be something extra for them.
Yeah.
so what,
So the motion on the floor is
motion on the floor for
$500
$500 per district.
per district.
Uh,
And that was the extent of the motion, or is there, that's it?
Yes,
With receipts.
now,
With receipts?
your recommendation was
With
$250
With
per tree.
receipts.
$250 per tree. If you have 2, you get 5. If you've got 1, you get $250.
that isn't what his motion
No,
said.
no, I'm saying that was your recommendation, your
Yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah, I can't support one get $500 and others only get $250. I want it to be,
On one
I want
tree.
parity, like,
Yeah.
before I can vote
And that
for it.
would be more, yes, Councillor Strand.
I know I'll have two communities, of the 4 villages, there'll be 2 communities with trees,
Yes.
and the $250 per area just certainly works well for me in my district. I don't know how Deputy Warden feels, or
And I think
area.
it would work well for me too,
Yeah,
but,
Because I feel as though we have to draw a line somewhere.
exactly.
Because
We
if
have
not,
to draw a line.
if not next year, we do it again, we could have 5 communities come in per district. Well, we'd like a tree here, we'd like a tree here, you know, then you're up to $1,250.
No, but you can limit, like your suggestion was to limit the amount of communities that do it. But, and the thing with that is, if community has a tree this year, and if they bought the lights and whatever to do it, they'll still have those lights for next year. They won't need 250 next year. That's another thing to look at.
You got so many different variables that it's
Exactly.
pretty hard to put it all on one.
Yeah.
For instance, if Gordon and I get together, we get each $500 and they already have a tree, why do we have to put money on the tree itself? We can just expand the decorations
That's right.
to a gazebo, which they already have there, or to whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, there's so many variables that I don't think you're gonna be able to please everybody.
No.
For sure.
Question?
So okay, we do have a motion, so if there's no more discussion, we have to vote on that motion. If it's defeated, can we make another motion, or can we, I think we can amend that motion. You can amend the motion as well.
You can amend a motion and
To
you
change.
can vote on this motion, and if it's defeated, a second motion can be made for a different amount or a different alternative.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean that you've said no to the funding,
Right.
it means
No.
you just didn't agree with.
Because as long, you can amend the motion as long as it has the same, it has a different amount, but it has the same meaning. Like we're discussing here whether we fund or we don't. And whether we amend it to that and we vote on the amendment, then you vote on the full motion. You would have two motions if it's amended.
But if it passes, that's all. If
It passes,
you don't have to
500.
vote.
Exactly. Yeah.
So unless someone wants to make an amendment to that motion, that it would be 250 per
Question.
tree.
Question?
Question on the 500? Okay, question's been called. All in favor of $500 per district, which is what the motion reads, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Nay.
Nay.
I vote nay.
Nay.
Three.
3 nays.
Looks like 3 nays.
Motion carried.
So everybody voted? Okay.
So to be clear, if there's only one tree in your district, they get $500.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Does the whole amount have to be used if it's not
No.
necessary?
I would say you
No.
have to bring.
Bring receipts.
Receipts.
I would say bring
Yeah,
receipts.
that's right.
To me, that only makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as an administrative,
Nightmare.
from an administrative perspective, if you had one tree in one district, anything over 250, I would require receipts for, but I would probably not ask for receipts up to
Up to
250.
250.
If two councillors decided to go together, and so that would be $1,000, right? Because that motion that was just passed, I would seek to see receipts outside of 500.
Yes.
So
Makes sense.
if you're making a bigger tree, $500 is a reasonable amount. After that, it's getting a little,
Yeah.
it's getting a little high. You have to provide those receipts.
Exactly.
So we'll amend the documents for that decision. This one is typically, is not done, it's been done very quickly, because we decided that we were gonna do something fairly quickly. So usually we bring you an administrative kind of like recommendation. In this case, time, we needed to get this out to get the trees up, because Christmas is coming.
Okay, next one is a thank you letter, board member. Now, there's no attachment to that, so I'm not sure exactly where we're going with this.
Last night, Mr. Warden, last night I received a phone call from a board member of the Mariner Center, Poitiers, who has decided for personal reasons to resign her position as a board member for the Mariner Center. So the purpose of this would be to send a thank you letter for her service. We have a policy to follow to replace her, so we do not require your authority to replace her, we would just start the process.
Yes.
But I'm suggesting that she's been a member for, I think, between 6 or 8 years, and that's the purpose of adding it to the agenda today.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah,
So
I
moved.
think it's good to have a motion for that, yes.
I'll move we send her a thank you letter.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contraminded, carried. Now we're on correspondence, we have moving to community for persons with disabilities. There's attachments to all of these. These are just for information. If you have any questions as we go, just bring them up. So I'll move on to the Projet Bibliothèque, and that would be, we're talking about the West Pubnico. Letter to Mr. Bernadette Jordan, Ladies Hospital Auxiliary, and Yarmouth Town and County Crime Prevention Association. If there's any questions on any of those, if not,
The only
yes.
thing I'd like to know here, I see that the Paul Dontamont, the president,
Yes.
would be looking for a meeting, or did they already have? No,
They've already had one.
Did
They
that,
already had
yeah, that's a letter I forwarded, came to me. Maybe I have to refresh my, because it's, I don't, oh, maybe that's what it's there. I'm sorry, yeah, that's a letter, sorry, yeah. I think what they're saying is they're definitely interested in discussing this, for sure.
And they put it in our court to set a meeting with them.
To set a meeting with them, yes.
Now, I was just wondering if we'd be able like to sit in on this meeting, like this is part of what you were talking about and that, and we could sit in on this meeting.
Sure.
We'd know
It's something we'll
exactly-
decide when the
You know.
meeting is, yeah. Okay, if there's no other business, do we have any questions or anything from the public? No. So there's no question period. I guess.
Move to adjourn.
the motion to adjourn.
You roped it, stole their thunder.
I saw you cut your eyes.